Morning po sa lahat. Thank you to TAPI for inviting the BOI. Actually, I'm not alien to TAPI. I'm actually a member of the board. I'm also a member of the Governing Council of PSURD. And I'm also now a member of the Advisory Council of ITDI. These positions, actually, I've accepted because I do believe that innovation is our future, and the BOI wants to be part of the decision-making of the R&D agenda of the different councils of the DOST, because we're the ones who are actually closely in touch with industry. So for this morning, I'm requested actually to present to you the challenges of the traders. So, but I'll start not with the challenges and the problems of the traders, but I want you to be part of the whole ecosystem we're working in. So, my first slide. Asan ba siya? Ayun. My first slide actually shows a strategic manufacturing, research and development, and export base. That is how we're positioning the Philippines in the global economy, in the global value chain. Okay, so we're building on the strengths and competitive advantages of the Philippines to be able to attract investments, not just the investments we currently have in the Philippines, but of course, more investments that would bring not only access to the markets you want to sell in, but also the technology in terms of capital equipment and probably equity that we might need in order to expand our production or manufacturing base in the Philippines. Okay, the next slide, di pa siya lumalabas, but I only have 15 minutes. Okay, so this is the TEK launch, remember, this is a TEK launch, and that is TEK, okay? The next slide will actually show us that siguro you've been hearing the economic managers of the Philippines or of the government saying, we're growing, we're growing, we're growing. We're in fact one of the fastest economy in ASEAN. That's true because if you look at the numbers, we're growing faster than the global average. In fact, for the past 5 years, for the period of 2014 to 2018, we grew 6.4% on the average, which is actually higher than the global average of just 4.2%. Even our manufacturing sector is growing faster than the global average. So what does it mean? We really have the means, the capacity, and the capability to do it. But I think our concern for the innovators this morning is the quality of growth that we want. If you look at the different there. Okay, so of our manufacturing. So yung top manufacturing sectors natin are food manufacturers, radio, television, and communication, or more or less that's electronics and electrical appliances, chemical and chemical products, furniture and fixtures, and beverages. So if you look at it, food manufacturers and beverages account for already like 40% of total manufacturing added. And then you ask, sa tingin nyo, ano yung mga pinoprocess ng ating local processors? Are you aware what is the status of the Philippine agriculture? Our productivity is decreasing. In fact, we're just having a presentation of our fruits and nuts roadmap. And lahat ng graph shows, just for the 8 commodities that we had, pababa ang productivity. So what does it mean? Ang pinoproseso ng local processors natin are imports. So what are we supporting? If we grow our manufacturing sector, what are we supporting? It is not local agri, it is imported agri. Now, will we be content with that? That's a question for the innovators. We always say the Philippines is so rich with natural resources, but how come we cannot solve that problem of productivity? This is a problem that innovators can actually look at and think about. Okay. Then we'll look at, for example, the next slide. Naririnig nyo rin, sinasabi natin, the bulk of our exports has always been electronics. Now we accounted for like 55 to 57%. So bumaba na siya. Ibig sabihin, we're diversifying our exports. But electronics is still there. But if you look at it, electronics are actually our main export. And therefore, whatever happens to the global markets where we export electronics, we're vulnerable. So nagkaroon ng global slowdown, for example, in the US market, in Europe, in Taiwan, in Japan. So that means the electronics exports of the Philippines will also be affected. And that will also affect the global economy, the Philippine economy's growth. So what is the request to the innovators? Let's try to find a way to diversify the Philippine exports. Hindi lang naman electronics ang potential export natin or potential na manufactured good. So, yun. Another story sa electronics, do you know what is the value addition ng electronics in the country? We export. Pag tinignan yung global export revenues niya, napakalaki talaga niyan. Pero look at what is the value addition for electronics. Sino ang makakahula sa atin? Yung mga nasa engineering field o nasa electronics na mga innovations natin. Alam nyo kung gaano kataas? 15%. So that means, whatever we export, most of it are actually imported as well. Now, if you look at the 15% value addition, ano lang yon compared to the contribution to the Philippine economy? So what do we want to happen? Again, that is the appeal to our innovators. We need to increase the value added in the Philippines to be able to earn more for the Philippine economy. Yun po yun. Okay. Next slide. The Philippines is a net importer in general. Kung mapapansin nyo, the first graph shows how deeper we are going into in terms of trade. So we're importing more than we are exporting. It's not a healthy balance. They say sometimes it's healthy because we import more of the raw materials and the intermediates, which are the ones used for production. But if you actually do that in a longer period, and it is actually getting deeper and deeper, we affect our foreign exchange reserves. We have to pay out more dollars than we earn them. So the idea there is, again, our innovators have to think of what can be done to add more value to what we export than we import. Then we solve the trade deficit. Then we solve the problem of trade balance of the country. And this is actually one of the major marching orders of the President and RDTI Secretary, find ways to really reduce the trade deficit. And the trade deficit can be done either by importing less, which I cannot say that we can necessarily do. We can export more. We can produce more. Or maybe we produce more higher value added products and services than what we are doing and exporting right now. So that is a challenge we would also like to pose to our innovators. Now, if we go now to the challenges ng industriya natin, these are the basic ones that we usually encounter as problems of the industry. Now, ease of doing business, some people would think this is more of a government thing. But I would like to pose this not just as a government problem because it deals with permits and licenses, but also as a systemic problem that maybe our innovators can think of a solution for. A lot of it has something to do with e-governance, a lot of IT platforms, and a lot of solutions that can help government reduce the load or administrative cost of doing things for the private sector. One project that we registered in the BOI is an IT platform that actually allows a taxpayer to compute its tax liabilities and connect it with the BIR. Another project that we registered in BOI as an innovation is an IT platform that had the trainees meet with the training providers online, so that, because a lot of our professionals, they have to earn credits, diba? But the problem is sometimes they have to go to Manila or they have to go to Cebu or other places which will cost money for them. So this IT platform now allows them to train online, but para hindi siya madaya, there's a facial recognition to ensure that whoever is training online is the right trainee that will earn the credit that PRC, it is actually endorsed by PRC, that PRC can consider. So these are systems that actually they did that can help us in ease of doing business also. And the government is very active now in terms of trying to find systems and processes that can really help us do our processes better. So sa BOI po, meron kaming system na applicants for registration will now be able to submit their applications online, pay online. So yung mga proponents po natin or aplikante or even our innovators, mamaya i-invite ko kayong mag-register sa BOI to help you in your startups. They can send their applications online. We can checklist it, you can pay online, you can and when you're registered, you can also submit your reports online. So you don't have, if you're located, for example, in say, Region 1, you don't have to go to Manila anymore just to submit your applications. Yun. So meron po kami mga systems na gano'n na ginagawa. Hopefully, we can launch it by the first quarter of next year. Now, supply chain gaps. Ito po yung sinasabi natin, if it's possible, we can try to find ways like utilize more of our indigenous materials in the Philippines na pwedeng maging substitute of the raw materials and intermediates that we actually import. Yun. And baka nga better pa yung materials natin. I know some of the R&D na ginagawa sa DOST, for example, on nano composites, nano materials, are using already fibers from the Philippines. So, yung mga ganun po sana. Now, we want to help that because in the BOI, we're now trying to find composite materials for aerospace parts and components, as well as for electric vehicles. We identified one who was also a beneficiary of DOST, and we've been inviting him to a lot of our reverse trade fair. And since then, actually, he had a lot of networks already with electronics companies and aerospace parts and components who actually linked up with him just to get his, for example, capacity or capability to do products for the different companies. And we can also do that linkage for you. So basta nakakaya nyo nang mag-produce at kaya nyo nang mag-entertain ng contracts, we can also help you with that one. Regulatory concerns, this is something also na we also help industry, and maybe you can also help us. One of the major issues that we handle right now is chemicals. PNP kasi regulates a lot of chemicals. Now, if the PNP and other agencies are very restrictive in the movement of chemicals, that affects a lot of our industries, from electronics to aerospace, to fertilizers, and even dun sa ating gumagawa ng handicrafts. Exaggeratory, but this is true. Yung Clorox po natin, di ba household siya, simpleng-simple lang. But we had a problem 2 years ago na even yung Clorox na yon had to be regulated strictly by PNP. They had to issue permits from import to transport to use in naman. To the point that, sabi nga nila, kung ang dati daw, ang per gallon ng Clorox ay nasa 60 pesos lang. After that, it became 600 pesos. That the bleachers, the one who bleached the seashells and the whatever, already stopped their operations. That's how very critical regulations is in the government. But you need to help us. So what did we do with the PNP? We invited scientists because we want them to regulate science-based. But if you go to laboratories and that takes a lot of time for them to test and provide results to government, that will cost a lot of money to businesses. So anything that would facilitate those things also is something that we would like to encourage you to help us in government. So yun lang po isang sample, but there are a lot of issues actually. So these are actually issues that we want you to already solve, not really, do innovations for problems na wala pa po in our midst. Yun. So that also will facilitate commercialization of your R&D output. And then lack infrastructure support, ito ginagawa na po natin to with the build. But of course, there's also a problem with that. Nakita nyo naman kung gaano katagal ang ating infrastructure construction, di ba? To the point na talagang sumusuko na tayo sa traffic. In the BOI, we actually opened it even to foreigners because we wanted to attract construction technologies. Kung mapapansin nyo ang construction sa Japan, di ba nagkaroon sila ng sinkhole nun? In a matter of days, it was solved. Walang masyadong traffic or gulo sa population. In the same way, we wanted in the Philippines because we have a lot of infrastructure. If there are materials that can, for example, semento, ngayon mga prefabs na tayo, but are there any other technologies that would facilitate or fast-track construction of infrastructure? Even of houses, even of hotel buildings. Aside from being green, because we need energy efficiency also in our facilities and structures. Anything that would help fast-track construction in the Philippines is also something that the government would welcome. So ito po yung ating mga challenges, and I would like to request our innovators to consider things like this, and be assured that we're one with TAPI, the Board of Investments, the Department of Trade and Industry, is one with you in trying to commercialize a lot of your technologies. That said, we always want to hear technologies, of course, that will help us solve a lot of our problems. We would always encourage technologies that are not just for academic purposes, but are really there to solve the country's problems. Now, yung dun po sa amin sa Board of Investments also, because I also found out that not many of our innovators and startup companies know about our agency. We're actually the Board of Investments. We register enterprises who are starting up, very new, either incorporated na kayo sa SEC or hindi pa. We can register you and provide incentives. Two fiscal incentives that we grant companies is you can import, if for example you need to import capital equipment, you can do it duty-free. You have to pay the 12% VAT, but you can import duty-free pag registered po kayo sa amin. And most importantly, since startup po kayo, it will help if you're allowed not to pay taxes for the first 4 or 6 years. Most probably, your technology, since bago po sila, would be called pioneer. So kung pioneering po yung technologies nyo, you can be granted 6 years of tax exemption by our office. So at least that will help you in the cash flow and maybe enhance your viability in the startup of operations. So kung meron na po kayo, you're already at that stage, approach nyo lang po ako. I'll be here until 11. Or maybe, since I'm also a member of TAP, you can ask our TAPI Secretariat. They can give you my information, and you can ask a lot of questions. We can even help you with your permits and licenses with the other government agencies. So ibig sabihin, we'll handhold you until you do commercialization of your technologies. Yun. So yun lang po yung gusto namin, gusto ko sabihin this morning from the Board of Investments, DTI, that we're here to help. But of course, we would like also to present to you what we need in government, both for facilitating business processes, but at the same time, in really growing the Philippine economy through the industry development initiatives that we're doing in government. So yun lang po, maraming salamat and have a very productive day.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Dr.